Okay, let's dive in. Loneliness. We hear that word a lot and maybe think we get it just being on your own.
Right. But the reality is quite different. The stats are pretty staggering, aren't they? Nearly half the U.S. population feels isolated.
Yeah, half. And it's not just a bad mood, it's being flagged as a real public health crisis, linked to things like heart disease, even dementia, serious stuff.
It really is. And that's why it's so important to grasp the difference between, choosing solitude, being physically alone.
And that other kind, that deeper ache.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emotional loneliness. That feeling where you could be in a packed room, but still feel completely unseen, unheard, like you're shouting into a void.
Shouting into the void, that captures it. And Carl Jung's perspective, which our material brings in, really digs into this, doesn't it?
He does. For Jung, it wasn't just about lacking company. He saw loneliness as this fundamental inability to communicate what's truly meaningful inside you.
An inability to express your core self, like emotional invisibility.
Precisely. He linked it to being disconnected from what he called the self, your authentic inner identity, if you're out of sync with that.
Then building real deep connections is basically impossible. You just skim the surface.
That was his view. You might interact, but that core longing, that need to be truly known for who you are, it stays unmet.
And that must tap into something really primal in us. The material mentions this fear of abandonment. We're social creatures, right? Wired for connection.
Absolutely. So feeling emotionally cut off, it can feel incredibly threatening, like being stranded, totally vulnerable.
Yeah, and maybe it triggers old stuff, like memories where being alone felt like being unloved, maybe from childhood.
That's a very real possibility. And when you layer on a society that often celebrates being popular and connected,
Then being lonely feels like a personal failure.
it can, unfortunately. It just adds another layer of shame or insecurity, making it even harder to bear.
Okay, so this emotional void, this crack in the armor that loneliness creates, the material suggests this makes people vulnerable. Vulnerable to influence, even what it calls seduction.
Right, but we need to be really clear up front. Before we even get to that idea of influence or seduction,
Yeah.
we have to understand the roots, what causes this deep emotional loneliness.
Got it. First things first. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Really unpack the causes. Where does the material start us off?
It points straight to mental health conditions, specifically depression and anxiety. And it stresses these aren't just passing moods. They fundamentally change your experience of connection.
Okay, let's take depression first. The material talks about emotional numbness.
Yeah, it's not just sadness. It's like a dampening of everything. Interest fades, energy plummets, even things you used to enjoy, like talking to friends.
Can feel like climbing a mountain, just exhausting.
Totally exhausting. Plus, you often get these intrusive thoughts. I'm a burden. Nobody really wants me around. I'm not worthy. So you pull back.
So it's not that you want to be alone necessarily.
Not usually. It's more feeling like you have to be, either because you're too drained or you genuinely believe your presence is negative for others. It's a painful cycle.
Okay, and then there's anxiety, social anxiety in particular. The material paints a picture of intense fear.
Overwhelming fear of judgment, yeah, or rejection. Your mind goes into overdrive in social settings, constantly scanning for ways you might mess up or be embarrassed.
Wow, so even if you desperately want to connect, that fear just paralyzes you.
It really can. It leads to avoidance. Skipping parties, not making eye contact, staying quiet. You basically retreat before any connection can even begin to form because the fear of a negative outcome feels worse than the loneliness itself.
And the material highlights something really tough. Experiencing both depression and anxiety together. That sounds incredibly isolating.
It's a brutal paradox. You feel intensely lonely and crave connection because of the depression.
But the anxiety makes reaching out feel terrifying, like an impossible hurdle.
Exactly. You're trapped between wanting closeness and fearing it intensely. It often reinforces those deep beliefs like, I'm unlovable or I'm fundamentally flawed. It can lead to a kind of self-imposed exile.
It sounds incredibly difficult. But bringing Jung back in, he saw these feelings differently, didn't he? Not as failures.
No, not at all. He viewed intense emotions like depression and anxiety as crucial signals from the psyche, like alarm bells saying something inside needs attention.
So not signs of weakness, but indicators of a disconnect, maybe from that self we talked about?
Precisely. A prolonged disconnect. He'd see them as invitations, really, calls to turn inward and look at what parts of ourselves we've been neglecting or pushing away.
Which leads us perfectly into this other key Jungian idea, the shadow. Can you unpack that for us? What exactly is the shadow?
Sure. Jung believed becoming a whole person, what he called individuation, means facing all parts of ourselves. The shadow is basically everything we tend to hide, deny, or dislike.
Like fears, insecurities, maybe traits we think are bad, painful memories too.
All of that. It's the unacknowledged, often unconscious side of our personality. The stuff we don't want to admit is part of us.
And the material suggests we often try to keep it hidden by staying busy, distractions, always being around people.
Yeah, it's a common tactic. Keep the focus external work, social life, routines, and you don't have to confront what's lurking inside. You kind of outrun yourself.
But loneliness changes that equation when the distractions fade.
The shadow emerges. It's harder to ignore what's inside when the outside world gets quiet.
Yeah.
Solitude kind of forces the issue.
And that's why loneliness can feel so terrifying from this Jungian view. It's not just being alone, it's being alone with the shadow.
Exactly. It's the confrontation with those unexamined parts of ourselves. The material mentions that unsettling whisper of the shadow saying, this is who you really are.
Ooh, that sounds confronting, like looking in a mirror and seeing things you've tried really hard not to see.
It can be deeply unsettling, yeah.
Yeah.
It challenges the image we project to the world, our persona.
So maybe people avoid solitude not just because they miss company, but because they're subconsciously avoiding that inner meeting.
That's a really key insight from the material. The discomfort of being alone might actually be a fear of our own inner landscape.
But it's not all doom and gloom with the shadow, right? Jung saw potential there too.
Absolutely. He believed the shadow wasn't just negative. It holds untapped potential, hidden strengths, creativity, aspects of our full humanity that we haven't owned yet.
So integrating the shadow isn't about getting rid of the bad bits.
No, it's about acknowledging them, understanding them, accepting them as part of the whole picture, owning it all.
And the material connects this inner work directly to our relationships. How does facing our shadow help us connect with others?
Well, if we're always hiding parts of ourselves, we can't show up authentically, can we? We're presenting a curated version.
Always wearing a mask, afraid of being truly seen.
Right. But when we integrate the shadow, we become more whole, more honest. We can be vulnerable. And that allows for much deeper, more genuine connections based on who we really are, warts and all.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
So understanding the roots, depression, anxiety, the shadow sets the stage for this next part. The art of seduction in relation to loneliness.
Yeah, and again, the material is careful to frame this, not as manipulation, but as empathy. It's about understanding the inner world of someone lonely.
Because lonely people often carry invisible scars from being dismissed or rejected before.
Exactly. They've likely built up emotional defenses, walls to protect themselves. It's not that they don't want connection.
It's that they're afraid of getting hurt again.
Precisely. So these defenses are shields, not signs of disinterest.
So this seduction isn't about force, but about gently disarming those defenses, becoming a safe space.
That's the core idea. Instead of meeting their distance with more distance, which often happens.
You meet it with warmth, openness, no judgment.
Exactly. It's about understanding where they're coming from. When someone consistently offers that safety, without pressure.
The walls start to come down, the armor melts away.
That's the hope. Feeling safe allows them to finally open up. Acceptance without critique is incredibly powerful for someone expecting rejection.
The material gives some concrete examples, like just listening without jumping in, smiling without expecting anything back.
Yeah, or affirming their feelings instead of trying to correct them. Offering a calm presence, basically being a refuge.
Celebrating them where others might criticize. Leaning in with kindness where others pull away.
Those are great ways to put it. It's about counteracting their past negative experiences with consistent, gentle positivity and acceptance.
Which brings us to this huge point. Acceptance over criticism. The material says lonely people are often super sensitive to judgment.
Extremely sensitive. Because they often carry this deep down belief that they're too much or not enough. They're almost bracing for rejection.
So what they crave more than anything is just someone who accepts them unconditionally.
That's the core longing. Someone who sees all of them, the good and the perceived bad, and stays. Doesn't try to fix them.
Right. The material stresses that attempts to fix someone or moralize or give unsolicited advice that just makes it worse, pushes them away.
Absolutely. It reinforces their feeling of being inadequate. True connection, in this sense, isn't about preaching or correcting.
It's about simply seeing them
Yes.
and reflecting back acceptance.
Yes. Fully seeing them. And remember, acceptance doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say or do.
Okay, that's an important distinction. It's not about pretending.
Not at all. It's about the approach. Approaching with empathy, warmth, curiosity, rather than critique. Creating a space where they can just relax and feel at home.
So judgment kills connection, acceptance nurtures it. That seems to be the bottom line here.
It really is. Withholding judgment and offering genuine emotional safety, that's the most powerful way to draw someone out of loneliness.
Okay. And then there's the issue of masks. People hide their loneliness.
Very often, yes. Behind maybe forced cheerfulness or a tough exterior or acting like they don't care.
It's another layer of defense.
Exactly. A way to protect the vulnerable core from more hurt. If they don't show the pain, maybe it can't be targeted.
So the takeaway is, don't make assumptions based on how someone appears initially. Don't judge the mask.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
People are complex. Layers upon layers of experience we can't see. We need patience.
Gentle observation, deep listening, giving them space to reveal themselves when they're ready.
Precisely. Not prying, but creating an environment where authenticity feels possible, feels safe.
And when you approach someone with that kind of openness, free from assumptions,
It gives them permission to let the mask slip. It signals that it's okay to be real.
and the result of that honesty.
Trust grows. Attraction, in the sense of a deep human pull towards connection, deepens. Real emotional bonds can finally form.
Because they feel truly seen and accepted, maybe for the first time in a long time.
Exactly. Without needing to perform or hide. That's where genuine intimacy starts.
So, wrapping this all up, the core idea, the seduction of the lonely, it really comes down to offering emotional safety.
That's the heart of it. It's about being that person who sees without judging, stays when others might leave, radiates warmth, maybe even some playfulness, and sincerity.
Genuine human connection.
Yes. And it ties back beautifully to Jung's point about needing to do our own inner work, right? Confronting our own shadows.
How does that help us offer safety to others?
Because when we faced and accepted our own imperfections, our own shadow aspects, we become less likely to project them onto others or judge them harshly.
We develop more compassion, more understanding.
Exactly. We can offer genuine acceptance because we're learning to accept ourselves. Our inner work enables outer connection.
So becoming that safe, open, compassionate presence, that's what makes someone truly compelling, truly irresistible to someone feeling isolated.
It seems so, not through demand or technique, but by offering that incredibly rare gift, a place of genuine emotional refuge.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? A final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, maybe consider your own willingness or capacity to offer that kind of emotional safety. What impact did that have on the connections in your life?
And maybe even reflecting on our own moments of loneliness and what we truly needed then. This powerful stuff to consider.